Hi, we're Shannon and Gerry Arner.
And our dog, Betty White.
Your hosts of the Arner Adventures podcast.
Could we have named it something more creative? Probably. But it's the name of our blog. It's our last name. We're on an adventure. Yada, yada, yada. After owning our own business, working 24/7.
And don't forget a mental breakdown in between.
We made a lifestyle change and decided to make the most out of life.
We sold our house, most of our belongings, downsized, and moved to the coast.
We live life minimally, but fully.
We live each day as an adventure.
This show will help you learn how to live life more fully, with more intention, by experiencing more, and with less stuff.
We'll talk about our own experiences, interview others who have much to share by creating a spark in our lives.
Some days we'll share real life ongoings of what we're going through, and others will talk about our favorite flavor of waffle.
Come join our adventure.
It's the Arner Adventures Podcast. Hello everyone, I'm Gerry.
And I'm Shannon.
Betty White is hanging here with us as we make our way to you for the episode 31 of the Arner Adventures Podcast. Betty White is feeling a little sensitive today. We've been traveling a lot and she senses that.
You know, she does. She is a very sensitive pup. That's what we always say about her.
Or we say a highly sensitive pup.
Highly sensitive pup.
HSP.
And speaking of sensitivity, today's podcast dives a bit into sensitivity, HSP, which we're going to talk more about. But first, let's get to our review of the week.
Today's review comes from Adrian Gates. Adrian says, "This is just what I needed. The Arner Adventures podcast is amazing. I learned many things from the episodes. You share very informative and valuable content with us. Thank you so much for doing a great job. I suggest it to my friends. Keep doing great work."
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you, Adrian.
Gosh, Adrian.
Pretty awesome.
That is awesome. That means so much. When you all take the time to give us a 5-star review or rating, it helps us so much in so many ways. It helps keep us motivated. Of course, we say that all the time, but with the algorithm and all that crazy algorithm mess that we talk about all the time, it presents us to others who may be interested in content like ours. And of course, you know, we want that. We want to share this information to other people who may be interested in it. So we really appreciate the reviews. And Adrian, that just means so much.
We do indeed. For today's episode, we wanted to talk to you about a topic that comes up in our household quite a bit. 3 letters that we mention quite often, HSP.
Yep. And in case you're wondering, those letters stand for highly sensitive person.
You might have heard me say highly sensitive pup, referring to our Betty White, but we say that joking around, but it's highly sensitive person, actually.
That's true. And being an HSP is not a mental illness or a disorder. It is simply a personality trait, a type of person. And we're going to talk about that today.
A highly sensitive person from a physical standpoint can be super sensitive to some sights, sounds, smells, textures, physical pain, consuming too much caffeine or sugar, not getting enough sleep, or even feelings of hunger can really throw an HSP for a loop. But not all of those things, just listing some of those as an example.
Right. And Gerry knows so much about this. He's been studying the world of HSP for a while now, which we're going to talk more about. And I think we're just really excited about this episode. I mean, we talk about it a lot in our household, and we've been getting some DMs about it, right? You talk to some people in DMs about it because you know so much.
I have,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I've gotten some DMs about this, and there's a lovely book from Dr. Elaine Aaron, who started this research back in, I think, 1991, 92, something like early 90s, let's say, and wrote this book, The Highly Sensitive Person. It's been revised several times, and there's been several spin-off books that become a little more specific on certain issues. But the original book we have right here, The Highly Sensitive Person, very informative, and people seem very interested in it these days.
There's a workbook with it too, right?
Yeah, there's a workbook that goes off this original book. It's basically the same stuff with some working content that you can do inside the book.
Yeah, and we'll link that in the show notes so that you all have that resource for you. But what we're going to do today is kind of talk about what an HSP is. How do you know if you are an HSP? and just dig into it a little bit more, again, because it comes up so much with us. And I think a lot of people hear about it often and don't really know what it is. And you're wondering, well, am I an HSP? And it doesn't necessarily mean you're just this, oh, I'm so sensitive. It doesn't, I think when I first heard about HSP, I just figured, oh, does that mean you're kind of a weenie? But it doesn't mean that. It just means there are certain things that in life that you are more sensitive to, which we are, going to be talking about. So listen, we're probably not the first to introduce you to the topic of CBD or CBD oil. If you're anything like us, it seems like every time you turn around, you're seeing a neon sign for CBD sold here at your local grocery store, in a window as you're driving by, or it flashes across your screen in an online ad.
Shannon's sister told us about the benefits she was having from a brand she was using, and then we started paying attention to that brand.
Spoiler alert, that brand is Danodan. Full transparency, we get about 2 to 3 CBD brands reaching out to us every week. And it wasn't until we started digging into the research that we learned that CBD isn't always CBD. They're just not all the same.
Danodan Hempworks makes organic hemp flower infusions. They're more than just CBD. Danodan's range of hemp products dissolve easily into any liquid and support your routine by helping you manage daily stress, promote healthy sleep, provide caffeine-free energy, and recover from activity-related stiffness and soreness.
They also have CBD hemp flower infusion specifically designed for pets, and Betty White uses it every day. She loves it. We put it on our food. And with Danodan, you'll enjoy all the benefits of legal hemp, not just 1 or 2 compounds isolated in a lab. Get 20% off right now with the code ADVENTURE at danodan.com. We'll link it for you in the show notes. That's 20% off right now with the code ADVENTURE at danodan.com.
Danodan, more than just CBD.
So what I thought I would do first is Mind Body Green. We've talked about in other episodes, is one of our favorite resources online. And so according to an article on Mind Body Green, being an HSP, it's not as simple as being overly emotional. In fact, there's a huge indicator of a true HSP that you may not be aware of, and that's physical sensitivity.
HSPs exhibit a high measure of sensory processing sensitivity, SPS, which is a temperament that has been described as having hypersensitivity to external stimuli, high emotional reactivity, and greater depth of cognitive processing. So basically, an HSP is someone who is extra sensitive to all internal and external stimuli.
Yeah, we're going to have a quiz in a few minutes that, sort of we go through and talks about how do you know if you're an HSP, but it really isn't just physical and it's not just mental. There are just certain things that you can be sensitive to. And I think a lot of it's environmental. A lot of it is just the way that you respond to things. And so I thought, Jer, if you can sort of talk about the ways that maybe you recognize how you are an HSP and then you discovered, that it was this thing. Can you kind of talk about that journey?
Yeah, sure. I've known, or probably always knew, but I didn't really look a lot into it. A lot of this stuff is in retrospect, that really loud noises, or bright light. I just, I can't take a lot of bright light. I always have sunglasses on outside. I don't like I don't really like a lot of indoor lighting, specifically like overhead fluorescent lighting.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been able to stand. And there's there's a lot of different things, but these two seem to be two pretty common ones: noise and light. And I can think back in retrospect and I go, oh, my mom always told me when I was like, she turned on the vacuum cleaner when I was really little, that it just really bothered me. And
That's interesting.
mhm. And I remember that now. I didn't think much of it, when she used to tell me that. But now it's sort of it sort of makes sense in retrospect. S yeah, there's that. There's, caffeine.
Which
Um,
is funny because you, especially when I met you, you were such a coffee connoisseur.
well,
I still think you
yeah, I
are.
still really like it. Yeah,
But
but
it's interesting the way that you respond to coffee now. It's like you're like,
yeah,
"Oh, I had way too much coffee. It's gonna affect me," and you
yeah,
really respond in kind of an intense way
and
when it.
that's half calf she's talking about too. Yeah. Well, no, I used to just use it and just go with it. I figured it was the way everyone was reacting to it. I didn't realize. I just thought that's the way you carried on with life. You know, you had your cup of coffee and you were just bouncing off walls till about 2 p.m. And then I started looking around and realized it's just me. And uh, that behavior needed to to be calmed down. And yeah, so you know, being younger, you just sometimes you miss these things. But I did realize that that too was a problem.
Mhm.
So yeah, those are three pretty key things for me. Um,
Do you think when you just said that's a problem, you think it's a problem that you have an issue with caffeine, or you're saying when you have caffeine, that's a problem? Because I personally don't think that you should list the sensitivities as a problem. You're saying if you have it, that's a problem.
well, it can be problematic. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
If I don't kind of keep that stuff in check.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, or maybe even being really hungry, or that just seems to really throw me off a little bit
And you
too.
don't get hangry. You just get to where it throws you off. You definitely do.
Oh, I'm suppressing my anger. I'm hangry as hell.
Yeah. And we do make jokes in the household about how Jer and Betty White are super HSPs, and Betty
Yeah.
is definitely Jer's girl because she is such an HSP.
Well,
And
one interesting thing too is they've talked about in the book. I don't know if we've talked about this, but I think they discovered, well, in the initial research back in the 90s when they started doing this, that there was at least 100 different species. I don't know if they've updated that or added to it, but that might be older information. But at that time, they said there was about 100 different species that exhibited the HSP traits, and it was just like within humans. It was about
huh.
20% of the population, and that went from cats, dogs, rabbits, what you might think of. It said right down to fruit flies.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Betty is definitely an HSP.
Uh-huh.
She is super sensitive, and not
Yeah.
even just as a senior pup. I think she's always been super sensitive to loud noises and,
Oh, yeah,
you
she
know,
is.
light, just
Uh-huh.
different things. I mean, she crawls in her PETA at the,
Yeah.
anything like that. But
And if you see a really nervous fruit fly out there, give them a little break. There,
have some grace.
have some grace. Yeah.
Well, and the reason we brought this up is because, yes, I will own it that I kind of giggle and may make a little fun and some jokes here and there.
That's an understatement.
But what has happened through maybe the years is I don't know if I have developed into an HSP or I am recognizing that I have HSP tendencies, but I am definitely becoming more of an underlying HSP. I think a lot of it, and we've talked about this on other episodes, is that COVID really changed things for me. I really fun. I think we have, as loud as I am, and again, we've talked about that before. I'm a loud person. I really have a difficult time going into another household, another environment where it is very loud. I can't handle it. I was in a household a week ago and the TV was very loud when I walked in, and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, please turn that down." And if I walk into a house, there's a lot going on, I can't handle it. And I don't know if it is because we have a calm environment here. And I've been used to that during, the COVID quarantine, or if this is an HSP thing, but I really can't handle loud noises anymore. It's hot here, Jer.
Oh, it's hot, all right. You gotta stay hydrated.
We've been traveling so much too, but it's easy to stay hydrated even when you're on the go and you don't have gallons of water by your side.
It sure is, with the help of Liquid IV.
Yep, Liquid IV is a hydration multiplier. It's a powder in a packet. You just throw a few of them in your bag and take them with you wherever you go.
Yeah, it's an electrolyte mix that you just add to your water. It delivers 2 to 2.5 times more hydration than water alone.
They have these really yummy flavors. Our summer go-tos right now are the strawberry and the pina colada. You know what I do sometimes is I throw a couple of packets of the pina colada, some ice and water in the blender, make myself a mocktail, hang out by the baby pool in the backyard. Oh man, I am good to go and hydrated.
That's a good afternoon, right?
Yes.
Yeah, getting creative. If you're someone who either has trouble getting your water in or just wants to get in the express lane with your hydration, you should definitely try Liquid IV.
For our listeners, if you go to their website, liquid-iv.com, and use code ARNERADVENTURES, you can save 25% off of your order and get free shipping.
We'll link it to you in the show notes too. Liquid IV, fueling life's adventures.
The other thing that I think is interesting as we've been researching this is chaotic things, especially like on TV or things that we watch, really bother me. For example, a few years ago, and you all have probably heard of Shameless, which is on Showtime. A few years ago when we had cable and all that, we were watching Shameless. And I would find where I had to stop episodes and just not watch it. It's a great show, but the chaos of that show bothered me and I couldn't watch it. It was just too chaotic and just too much going on. And I thought, well, gosh, maybe it's just my OCD. It also bothers me if I'm watching something and there's a mess or like a dirty, chaotic, scrambled mess. I can't watch that. And I think that is probably my OCD. But if it's a loud, chaotic mess, I can't do it. And I did read that that's a part of HSP.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely is, and and you've always had problems with anything. We'd watch certain sitcoms, and in sitcoms, things tend to get a little bit scrambled. That's the whole idea with those for a few minutes.
Comedies,
and then, and then they all wind up at the end, and she'd be like. And it didn't affect my HSP tendencies. I don't think so, because I'd be laughing and she'd be like, when they gonna straighten out this mess? And I said, well, it's a sitcom. It's only at 17 minutes. They don't straighten out the mess till minute 25. This has been going on for like decades.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
But she would handle it.
Yeah, she couldn't handle the time that it would take for them to straighten out the mess.
Yeah, I can't handle the mess. I can't handle the chaotic mess.
Uh-huh.
The other thing is, interestingly enough, but here's the thing, this has been the case for most of my life, is I have the nose of a bloodhound. Yeah. I can sniff out anything.
Yes, she can.
This morning, I walked out with Betty, got ready for my walk, and I said, there's poop out here. Mm-hmm. There is poop out in this yard somewhere.
Yeah.
And I walked around. I couldn't find it. I was like, I don't understand. Where did this poop come from? It was not Betty, because obviously I had her with me. We went on our walk. We came back to the house. I swear to God, a block up, I'm like, where's that poop? I can smell the poop. And as we get closer to the house, over there in the pine straw was some other animal's poop.
Yep.
And I got it up because I didn't want to be smelling it all day. I could probably smell it if I was in the house. Somebody let their animal poop in our pine straw. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I got it up, but I can sniff out anything.
Yes, she can.
And
no doubt.
My nose definitely works pretty well. So I don't know if that is part of the HSP situation?
It would probably have a little something to do with this. And to bring this full circle to where we started about 5 minutes ago, Shannon is, I have recognized as a closet HSP, but she's coming out of the closet. She's recognizing her tendencies. And I no longer have to mutter under my breath, closet HSP.
No.
Now we're
the
talking
loud
about
noises bother me now too. Like if
Yeah.
you drop something, it scares the hell out of me now. And
it.
it didn't used to.
No, I don't think it used to. No.
There are certain family members that we have, they're probably listening now, I won't mention their names, who can blow their nose pretty loud, and it scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I remember I used to would hear it and just be like, oh, okay, that's them. But now they do it and I will just about jump out of my skin.
Right.
It scares the hell out of me.
Yeah. Well, from what I read, I look at a lot of different HSP related things on social media and groups and see what people talk about. And most people do seem to say that their sensitivity increases with age. Now, the good thing is with age, they've developed more defenses or ways to sort of manage that. So it's a balance, but they do tend to say that their sensitivities have increased with their age.
Right.
Yeah. And that's where we stand right now.
Well, we have a short quiz, 10 questions that we'll just go through and we'll just talk through them really quickly of how do you know if you're an HSP? And these came from Mind Body Green. We actually have a more in-depth way that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, but just for the sake of the podcast, we're just going to run through them really quickly and we'll just kind of alternate them.
Sure.
If you want to start and we'll just kind of go through them.
Yeah. Here we go. Do loud environments make you want to run and hide?
Right. Do you get really irritable when you're hungry?
Does attending a musical, visiting an art gallery, or reading poetry stir up your emotions?
As in, like, does it make you emotional, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does having several different tasks to complete actually make you less productive because you become overwhelmed and stressed?
Do you consider yourself abnormally empathetic?
Does it take you longer than most to make decisions?
Do you despise violent movies?
Do you easily sense when other people are feeling overwhelmed?
Does presenting to an audience often go poorly because you loathe working in front of watchful eyes?
After a long day, do you need solo, quiet time to recharge?
Yes, and yes.
I'm going to tell you right now, Gerry, does it take you longer than most to make decisions? Good Lord. For Gerry, yes.
Yeah. Well, and I know too, I think about this a lot too now. When I was younger, I had a lot of people do in their 20s. You might work in a night shift, in a restaurant or a hotel. I did a little bit of both of that. And if I was somebody that worked till 10 o'clock, it was, 3 or 4 p.m. before I was going to sleep. Because
3 or 4 a.m.
I'm sorry, a.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, what? That seems really weird.
That would be really weird. Yeah, but anyway, I'd work till 10 p.m. and I'm not one of those people. It's an environment like that to a restaurant or a hotel where there's a lot of interaction, maybe, with customers. Yeah, I would definitely someone that would be up till the middle of the night and working that kind of shift and sleeping till noon and then doing it all again.
Right. Well, if you answered yes more times than not to those questions, chances are you're an HSP.
We wanted to take a pause for a second to tell you once again about how much we love Sugar Wish.
If you're a regular listener, Sugar Wish isn't new to you. You already know how much we adore the fact that we count on Sugar Wish to send gifts to people. Why? Because it's easy.
Yes.
It's a time saver.
Yes.
You know the recipient is going to love it because they choose what they want.
That's right.
And it's not a gift that's going to take up space because it's edible.
Yes.
What's not to love?
You forgot something.
What's that?
You save money because we have a code to share with our listeners.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Use code Betty White. That's all caps, one word, Betty White, to save $7 off your gift to someone. We also have the link in the show notes.
Yep. Whether you're gifting someone candy, snacks, tea, coffee, wine, or some dog treats to one lucky pup, that code works to save. Sugar Wish always saves the day.
Congrats, you're part of a club of deep thinking, creative doers who might just need a little more quiet time than most.
And we do have a more in-depth quiz that you can take that gives you more information on this.
And some things I've learned along the way to maneuver through this world being an HSP, we will put the link in the show notes, or you can go to arneradventures.com/HSP to get more info.
Yeah, and Gerry, again, knows so much about this. I mean, you have read up on this for, especially Elaine Aron's book, for a while now.
Yeah.
And I think when people, Gerry and I, of course, both are in the Arner Adventures Instagram account. So we see the DMs, and sometimes I'll see that he will respond to people, especially when they talk about HSP.
Yeah.
And you respond, and you always recommend that book.
I do.
And the workbook. So with all the research and stuff that he has done, we do have that in-depth quiz. And I think it's very helpful. So yes, if you do go to that website or go to our show notes and click the link, it does get more in-depth than just the 10-question quiz. And I think it's really helpful.
It is. Yeah. And just a thought too, I think people are thinking, well, this information's been around for 30 years. Why isn't it more mainstream? Why isn't it taken off? Well, I think it really just hit its stride in the advent of social media in the last 5 to 10 years, where everybody's kind of involved.
All right.
To me, I can see that's where it really took off. But I think this stuff is really valuable, and I can tell by reading what people say online, especially somebody a little bit older, either over 40 or over 50 or over 60, will say, oh my God, I finally got it figured out. I've read this stuff, and I've lived my whole life thinking I was just so different. And then they discover this community of people and these ideas, and they really kind of find a home with this. Right. And an understanding of themselves.
Yeah. And Gerry also put in this quiz some kind of, I don't know if coping is the way to word it, but you did put some recommendations of how to, maneuver through certain situations too. So, yeah. So it's a really good resource. If you know someone who could benefit from this episode and learn more about HSP, please screenshot it or send them the link to this episode. Sharing is caring.
Indeed.
As always, you can find us at arneradventures.com, on Instagram at arneradventures, also linked in the show notes.
So until next time, enjoy the journey that you're on. We're wishing you lots of adventures.
Bye.